Hello and welcome to another Bard's Tale. Last week's Folklore Friday, I told 3 Mongolian folktales, and this week we won't be moving far from there. Surrounding Mongolia, which lies at the heart of Asia, are many ancient and fascinating cultures. Before this tale, we will have to choose just one, and so we will head southward until we hit the stony steppes and monumental mountains of Tibet. History lies in every stone here, and the land emanates an ancient aura. Also known as the roof of the world for its mountainous landscapes, it is no surprise that from this region sprung a people whose rich and vibrant culture has endured millennia. And it is from this culture which come many tales, though I will tell only a few here. The first is the tale of the tiger and the frog. Long, long ago, in the days when all animals understood the languages of each other, Sudan, an old tiger, was venturing into the mountains for food. Creeping quietly on the prowl, he was spotted by a small frog on the riverbank, who was swiftly terrified, knowing he would be found and eaten. Knowing his fate, it granted him enough bravery to mount himself atop a small mound of sod. "Hello! Where are you going?" The tiger stared into the frog. "I am headed into the forest to hunt. I've not had anything to eat for 2 or 3 days and my stomach rumbles." Though you're awfully small, I suppose you're still edible. Who are you, anyway?" The frog puffed his chest, widened his stance, and attempted to look as big as possible. "I am the king of the frogs. I can jump any distance and I can do anything. I challenge you to jump further than I across this river." The tiger nodded and crouched low beside the river, ready to jump. But as he leapt, the frog bit onto his tail. The tiger landed on the opposite bank, an impressive feat. As he turned to see how the frog was getting along, the frog let go of the tiger's tail, flinging him upwards to land high up the bank. "What are you looking down there for, tiger?" The tiger whirled around quickly, astounded to see the frog so high up the bank. "I beat you in that test, but how about another? Let us see who can vomit the most." Again the tiger agreed. Though he retched and coughed, the tiger had not eaten in days, and could only cough up a little water. But the frog coughed up some tiger hair. The tiger's eyes widened. "Why was there tiger hair in your gut?" The frog smirked. "Oh, yesterday I ate a tiger. I suppose I hadn't finished digesting all of him yet." The tiger, believing himself to be in grave danger, turned about and ran into the forest. As he ran, he almost crashed into a fox. "What's the matter? Why are you running so fast?" asked the fox. "I met the king of the frogs. He's eaten tigers before and he can jump farther than I," the tiger replied. The fox laughed at him. "What, the frog? He is nothing. I am but a little fox, but I could step on him and kill him." The tiger thought on this and said, "I know this frog, but if you believe you can kill him, then I will travel back with you. But I fear you will run when faced with a king of frogs, and so we will tie our tails together, so you do not abandon me." The fox reluctantly agreed, and their tails were tied. They returned to the riverbank, where the frog sat looking very smug. The frog saw the two and called out to the fox, "Wonderful! Here I thought you'd forgotten to pay your toll to the king, but here you have brought me dinner." The old tiger was terrified, thinking the fox was proffering him to be eaten by the frog. So he turned and ran into the forest even faster than before, dragging the poor fox behind him. If they are not both dead, the tiger would still be running today, with the fox right behind him. This tale is quite simply, but aptly, known as the donkey and the rock. In a time long ago in that faraway land known as Tibet, where the land is closer to heaven than any other land, there ruled a king, known as a very just man. He was noted in all kingdoms for his fairness. In the city ruled by the king were 2 poor men, who both were good, and both did their very best each day to support their old mothers. On a sunny and fair day, one of the men started up the mountain way with a jar of oil, which he sold to any who wanted it, which he passed along his way. But the mountain pass was steep and rocky, and he tired quickly. He decided to rest and sat by the roadside, placing his large jar of oil on a rock by the road. The other man was headed down the mountain road with his donkey, who had wood stacked high across its back. The stack was so high that the man did not see the jar of oil resting atop the rock, and was too late to steer the donkey clear of the jar, which dropped to the ground and shattered. The man who owned the oil was furious, began screaming at the man, blaming him. The man who owned the donkey shouted back, claiming it was the donkey's fault. The man who owned the oil said it was all he had in the world to sell, so he could support himself and his mother. They both traveled to see the king, hoping he would sort out their quarrel. They were announced in the court and both told their tale. The king, after giving them both a fair hearing, came to a conclusion. They were both good men, and it could not have been their fault. Instead, the fault lay squarely on the donkey and the rock. The donkey was clapped in chains and led into prison, while 5 of the king's men were sent to apprehend the rock, who was also restrained and sent to the prison. News of this curious case spread like wildfire amongst the kingdom's people, and on the day of the trial, almost all the kingdom was packed into the courtyard. Had the king gone mad? A guilty rock? A donkey in chains? This was absurd. The gossip fell silent when the judge approached his seat, and instructed all the doorkeepers to shut and lock all the doors to the courtyard. The judge sat and pronounced his judgment. As you very well know, there is no law by which a donkey or a rock can be judged. Why have you all come to see so absurd a thing? Because of your curiosity in such a matter, every one of you will pay a half-cent as you leave this court. The people, looking abashed and ashamed, filed slowly from the courtyard, each paying their toll to the doorkeepers. The cash taken in this way was all given to the man who lost his oil. The debt was paid, and the court closed. The final tale is called The Ingratitude of Men. Long ago, in a faraway land, man and animal spoke and lived together. Away in the mountains, a narrow road ran aside a deep chasm. It was a dangerous road to travel, but along this path, one especially dark night, came a man, a crow, a rat, and a snake. As they traveled along the road, it cracked and caved in, and they fell into a dark pit below. None were hurt, but all were shaken as they considered their plight. How were they to escape? Finally, a traveler came by, and to the sounds of joy he lowered a rope to the needy travelers. He drew them all up one after the other, and each professed their gratitude, and offered him help whensoever he would need it. The traveler secretly scorned the professed friendship and gratitude of the 3 animals, for what could they do to pay back their debts? The man, though, might have some use. A long time after this happenstance had taken place, the crow found itself sitting atop a tall tree by a large castle. Beside the tree on one of the flat roofs, the queen was bathing herself. She removed her glimmering jewelry and placed it on the bench beside her. Once her hair had dried, she left downstairs, forgetting her jewelry. Believing the jewelry to be a fine gift, to show his gratitude to the traveler, the crow made off with the queen's jewelry. He took it to the traveler, who accepted the gift, astounded that the crow had given him something so valuable. The next day, the traveler decided to show off the jewels to the man he had saved. After hearing the tale of the crow stealing the queen's jewels, the man left the traveler and reported him to the king. The traveler was quickly arrested and thrown into the deepest dungeons of the castle keep. He had no bed, no food, and little to keep him warm in the damp coldness of the stone cell. He was nearing death by starvation. His stomach couldn't even rumble when the rat found its way to him through a crack in the walls. Seeing the man he owed his life to curled on the floor, dying, the rat swiftly left and found his way to the king's palace, where he stole as much food as he could from his table. The rat returned to the dying traveler with a king's feast. The traveler ate it all, and the rat left. After a few days had passed, the snake found its way to the traveler's cell. The traveler recounted his tale to the snake, who began to formulate a plan to free him. This particular snake was magical and made itself into a ghost, coiling itself around the king's throat, slowly strangling him. The king could feel something tight about his throat, but could not see anything. The king wildly called for his wise men and his lamas, who used their abilities to discern that there was a ghost strangling him, and that this ghost was a patron saint of the traveler the king had thrown into the dungeon to rot. The wise men and the lamas agreed that freeing the traveler and treating him kindly would save the king from being choked to death. The king quickly called for the prisoner to be brought to him, and gave to him riches and jewels aplenty, and sent him away as swiftly as possible. The king's misery stopped, and the traveler was made happy by the unexpected friendship he had once doubted and scorned.